Welcome to What's the Scenario with PLRB, where we explore claims and coverage scenarios relevant to insurance professionals. I'm Alissha Watley.
I'm Tim Heffler.
And I'm Mike Brode.
All right, Tim, what's the scenario?
Grandma got a call from a very nice sounding gentleman who told her about the tsunami that hit Myanmar last week. He told her about all of the deaths, families ripped apart, neighborhoods destroyed, and all the people with nowhere to sleep and nothing to eat. In fact, none of that was true, but Grandma was heartbroken and asked how she could help. The nice man told her she can drive to her bank and wire $3,000 to an overseas account, and that they would use her money to buy food and shelter for the victims. When Grandma's family found out about this, they discovered that this gentleman and his company did not exist. They had her file a claim under her homeowners policy. So, what do we think about this one? Can anyone relate to a situation like this?
Unfortunately, yes. My mom fell for something very similar to that,
Oh no.
where, she got a call and she's a very giving woman. It wasn't $3,000, but, it was enough where it made a nice little dent into her fixed income. So, when she was telling me about all this, I, did the Home Alone gasp face of no, you didn't. And but yeah, it's a shame that people get taken advantage of that way,
especially in a kind-hearted thing. Mine was totally different, Tim. It didn't happen thanks to my cousin, but out of the blue I get a call from my cousin that I hadn't talked to in quite a while. He said, "Hey, my uncle just got a phone call saying that it was me that was talking to him, and I was arrested in Toledo, Ohio for DUI, and I needed my uncle to send me some bail money." So,
wow.
So number one, I guess what concerns me most is I always thought my uncle thought pretty highly of me, but he already believed that I was in Toledo, Ohio, and I was busted for DUI. And then instead of calling my dad or me direct, he goes to my cousin, who thankfully stopped him and said, "I really don't think that's Mike, and I don't think he was arrested and is in jail in Toledo, Ohio." So thankfully my cousin stopped that one. But yeah, I am appreciative, though, that my uncle was willing to at least consider bailing me out of jail if I ever get in trouble. So that was nice. But yeah, just that whole craziness of somebody who really is kind-hearted and wants to help, and you're going to get that whenever you talk to a grandmother or grandfather. They're always going to want to help somebody out, be it their own family member or somebody that's in some kind of difficult circumstance. So to take advantage of that kind-hearted nature and try to scam some funds from folks is just a horrible thing. But just to be clear, I was not arrested in Toledo, Ohio for DUI, and I did not need bail money from my uncle.
Yeah,
and that's the story you're
scam,
sticking with, huh?
Yes, I am.
And that scam is going to get worse and worse and worse, because the latest we've been hearing is computer voice clones.
Yeah.
So now you can use the actual person's voice and say, "Mom, it's me. I'm kidnapped. They're holding me hostage. I need money right now." And if it sounds exactly like your daughter, that's going to pull at you.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I'm going to call Liam Neeson from the Taken movies. He'll help out.
He always finds whoever he's looking for.
Yeah, but they'll use anything: free vacations, prizes, loan scams, charities, like we said. We're the IRS, or the one, what's the one we all got in our
the warranty,
auto warranty.
Your extended warranty. Yes, my mom almost fell for that one too, and I'm like, no, that's not it. There was one, I had a friend of mine who got she had an old gas card, and so when she called to see if there was still any money on it, they told her that she had won something and she had to give money in order to get the prize.
Pay shipping.
I know, pay the shipping. It's like you don't usually have to pay to redeem a prize. So yeah, it's crazy.
Right. Or it's I need you to drive to Target right now and buy a bunch of gift cards, take them back, scratch off, and then read me the number.
Yeah, the only way you can get Mike out of jail is through Bitcoin. So
Yes.
Yeah, crypto, that's a big one. Yeah, because that's not traceable. And they're looking for sometimes money, but your identity too can also, they can use that. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the one thing that always comes up when we talk about these scams is, wait a minute, doesn't the bank refund your money from scams?
Of
So
course they do, right?
some might, but in our
Mm.
hypothetical, I don't believe they would be required to. I mean, maybe they'll make a customer service decision to do it, but banks will make a distinction between what they call scams, and that's when you fell for a trick and you voluntarily relinquished your own money, versus what they call fraud, which is when the thief directly takes money out of your account. Maybe they got your debit card number. Now I remember, this must be 20 years ago now. I looked at my bank statement and one day saw $20 to Best Buy and $40 to Bed Bath and Beyond and $60 to Target, and I didn't make any of those purchases. But that was a case where they got my numbers and they took the money out of my account. I didn't fall for a trick.
I'll say this, I have a really good bank because recently, like 2 weeks ago, I get a text message in the middle of the night, had been 2 o'clock in the morning. Were you trying to purchase something from Walmart in Arkansas? I live in Illinois, so no, I was not.
Could have been on a nice vacation in Arkansas.
I know. I just wanted to go hang out there in a Walmart. Yeah. $214 they tried to take.
Nice.
Wow.
And I did notice the
Yes.
same thing. I was going to say, Alissha, same with your credit card company. With mine, I've had ones where, we were out of town here recently and they asked, hey, were you charging gas down in Florida? And yeah, we were, because we were there. But it's nice to know that you get these heads up alerts and that they're looking out for you proactively versus
Right.
reactively, where, hey, now that something's happened and you try to contact the bank or credit card company and try to work it through versus them catching it up front. And that's the plus of artificial intelligence, I think, Tim. On the downside, yes, they can record my voice now and use that against my uncle when they call him back to say I need bail money, but it can also do those things, looking at your spending habits with your credit card to say, hey, this doesn't seem to match how you usually do
Your pattern.
Yep, your pattern of spending. So there could be an issue here. So that's exciting part of artificial intelligence.
Yep, AI good guys and AI bad guys.
Mm.
All right, so do we want to talk about the insurance implications here?
Yes.
Sure.
Hey, so now remember, we said the bank is probably not going to refund this money. So Grandma's next option is to call her insurance company because she's got a homeowner's policy, and that homeowner's policy covers personal property. Is money personal property? Yes, it is. All property is either real property, which is your house and anything that's permanently attached to the land, or personal property, which is basically anything else. There's also a third category called intellectual property, which is trademarks, patents, and copyrights, but we'll ignore that for now. So yes, money would be personal property, and coverage C does cover personal property.
Isn't it? It's been a while, Tim, because I ended up my career in insurance on the casualty side. But wasn't there a limit to money? How much money was covered under your policy? Is one of those limitations?
There is. So the very first special limit of liability in most homeowners policies, in fact, it's the first word in the first special limit, is for money, because insurance companies, they're okay with giving out a limited amount on these losses, but they are potentially large losses that an insured could be guarding against. So the idea is we'll limit them. In the most recent ISO H03, that's the 2022 edition, that limit was just increased to $300, up from $200. So not a lot compared to the amount that Grandma lost, but at least it's something.
And Tim, this may be an unfair question for you, and I hate to put you on the spot, but what's the definition of money then? So if it's like an electronic fund transfer versus actual cash or Bitcoin, how does a policy define what is this cash money currency? What is it?
That is an excellent question.
Thank you.
Because some people have said electronic banking funds aren't money. These people would say, I got cash. Cash is money. Electronic banking funds, that's numbers in some bank's computer.
Right.
That is not the majority approach. What most claims people have said, and I would say probably what most courts have said, is they're so interchangeable. You go to your bank, you take out cash, you put in cash, your number in your account goes up, that it's all basically the same thing. So if the number in your account goes down by a certain amount, we can say that that is a loss of quote unquote money. Now, some other things you mentioned, Bitcoin, probably not money. It's not a generally accepted medium of exchange. Alissha, if I lent you $5 and then next week you wanted to pay me back $5 in Bitcoin, I'd probably say thanks, but no thanks. I want the good old United States dollar because that is the generally accepted medium of exchange here. So that would be a pretty good definition of money, I think.
So how about this one, Tim? Riddle me this one. Policy, I think, covers something called theft. So let's say in your grandma's scenario, is it really theft if I voluntarily paid that money to this, what I thought was a charity? Is that truly a theft?
Oh, Mike, you're hitting on all the issues here.
All right.
So remember before we said that banks make this distinction. You gave up money versus a fraud where someone took your money. And the difference there is you made a voluntary decision. Insurance policies, homeowners policies generally do not make this distinction. There is a named peril for theft, and theft can be both of those. It can be the scam, it can be the fraud. It can be things like you gave your friend something and your friend won't give it back, even though it's still rightfully yours. You could say that's a theft of your property. It could be you moved out of your apartment and your landlord won't give you your property back because they have a grudge against you and they're just keeping it from you. That could be a theft of your property. It could be you left your wedding ring in a shopping bag in a hotel and you forgot about it and the maid saw it. Now, if the maid didn't know the ring was in there, she saw a shopping bag and threw it out, that wouldn't be a theft because the idea here is that there has to be an intent to take your property and deprive you of your possession. So if the maid saw the ring and kept it, that's a theft. If she accidentally threw it out, that wouldn't be a theft. And tying that back to our claim, this is clearly a theft because the scammer wanted grandma's money even though he did not obtain it through rightful means.
Very good. And I don't know if this is fair either, Tim, so I'll apologize again up front, but let's just say I don't know what happened to my wedding ring. I know that took it off to wash my hands when I was in the hotel room, got home, realized it was no longer on my finger. So just that whole kind of, I think they call it maybe a mysterious disappearance. You don't know quite what happened to it. Is it anticipated that then is theft or?
This is a burden of proof issue.
Okay.
So in a named peril policy, which we'll assume this is a named peril policy, the burden of proof lies on the insured to establish that they suffered a loss by one of those 16 or 17 named perils.
Okay.
So you have this situation, like you said, where there's not a lot of good evidence one way or the other. It's hard to say. The standard isn't like you usually hear on court TV, beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not that high. It's called a preponderance of the evidence, which means the insured needs to come forth with enough evidence to convince you that there's at least a 50% likelihood that they suffered a theft.
Okay.
So you can imagine, just to keep, rattling off these hypotheticals, they put their ring in their suitcase and checked in their luggage. Then they got to their hotel, opened up their suitcase, and there's no ring there. Well, can you make an inference that someone stole that along the way? Or can you make the inference that the insured it's more likely that they fumbled it or misplaced it? It's really just looking at all the evidence and going with what appears most likely.
Yep. And I think there's other requirements too, like maybe a police report and other things that folks might have to do.
Yes, in case
Under the
of theft,
policy,
notify the police. It's a condition, yes.
Awesome.
That just means hold on to your wedding ring.
Yeah, never take
Yeah.
it off.
So real quick here, I want to just point something out just to eliminate any potential confusion. And that's that commercial policies,
Mhm.
both BP and CP forms usually do have an exclusion for voluntary parting. So if you are tricked into giving up your property under a homeowner's form, that's not excluded. Under the BP and CP forms, that probably will be excluded. So it's interesting that we hold the businesses to a higher standard of care there than the homeowner. I guess the idea is they are a business and they can
Yeah.
perform credit checks and they know who they're dealing with. As happens, there's a lot of case law when an employee of a law firm received an email purporting to be from their managing director saying, wire money, today, immediately, we need to get money to this client. And of course it was a trick and the money never came back. And if that law firm had a BP policy or a CP policy, generally the voluntary parting exclusion would negate coverage.
So the lesson there is always, number one, like Alissha said, don't take off your wedding ring. Then number two is always, as an adjuster, read your policy carefully, check all your endorsements, make sure you're looking into all these avenues of potential coverage or no coverage as you're investigating your case.
Always read the policy. That's the first thing I say.
Reading's hard. There are big words and stuff. All right, so Tim, what can we take away from this scenario?
To recap, Grandma got scammed by a fake charity. She wired $3,000 overseas, and that money is not coming back. She submits a claim under her ISO HO3 2022 policy. Under that policy, money is personal property under coverage C. This most likely is a theft. So even under named peril coverage, she has a covered loss. There's no voluntary parting exclusion in standard homeowners forms, but the special limit of liability for money would likely apply in the 2022 edition. That is $300 for money, which is most likely what Grandma would be entitled to in this loss.
So Mike, do you have a takeaway for this scenario?
I'm going back with my original takeaway of don't take off my wedding ring.
And mine is my daily life, trust no one. No, no, just be aware. Always just be aware of, what's being brought forth to you and making sure that you follow your gut. Sometimes you just have to follow your gut. If it sounds off, it probably is.
If it's too good to be true, there you go.
It probably
is. Yep.
All right. So Tim, if I'm an adjuster who wants to know more about this topic, where can I go?
For all of the topics we discussed today, including what constitutes a theft, the special limits of liability, voluntary parting exclusion, PLRB has detailed annotations on all of these topics, providing case law from the various states for research that you can conduct. And as always, if you need additional assistance, PLRB members can submit a question to PLRB coverage attorneys.
All right. Well, thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mike. And we'll see you next time.
See you next
See you,
time.
everybody.
The views and opinions expressed in this resource are those of the individual speaker and not necessarily those of the Property and Liability Resource Bureau, its membership, or any organization with which the presenter is employed or affiliated. The information, ideas, and opinions are presented as information only and not as legal advice or offers of representation. Individual policy language and state laws vary, and listeners should rely on guidance from their companies and counsel as appropriate.